Now, Eskom has extended the deadline for their latest renewable energy procurement bid window. The energy facility says the moving accommodates processing timelines and bidder requests aiming to procure 5,000 megawatts, including solar as well as wind power. Joining us to provide further insights in greater detail is energy writer for the Business Day, Denene Erasmus. Denene, always a pleasure. Thank you for your time this afternoon.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course, Denene, we are speaking about bid window 7 at this point, but maybe let's recap on bid windows 1 to 6, because there have been some hiccups along the way that are kind of feeding into what we're seeing happening with a bid window 7.
Yes, no, absolutely. I mean, the REAP program has not been without issues at all. So it was originally launched in 2011. But we saw a big gap in procurement from around 2015 to 2019 when the program was completely stalled. And it was then later kick-started again with bid window 5, which closed in 2022. From the start of the REAP program, so from 2011 up to now, there has been roughly about 12,000 megawatts of wind and solar power that has been procured, and of that, about 6,000, roughly about half of that has come online so far. So there are still projects that are outstanding from previous bid windows, from bid window 4, where there was a big issue with pricing, and then also some projects from bid window 5 that are still outstanding that still need to reach commercial close. Bid window 6. Was a bit of a disaster. So that bid window initially sought to procure about 6,000 megawatts of solar and wind power. It ended up being able to procure only 1,000 megawatt of solar, and that was because the grid capacity to connect new projects in the high potential provinces for wind and solar, and that's the Northern, the Western, and the Eastern Cape, had run out, and that was one of the big constraints in bid window 6, and then one of the issues that the Department of Mineral Resources and Energy and the IPP office sought to address through bid window 7.
So let's then talk about what we are seeing with the extension around bid window 7. We know, of course, Denene, that the issue of transmission is a tricky one. So I'm assuming that also plays into what we're seeing play out with this bid window 7.
I think that is, there has been quite a few developments since this bid window 7 was launched in December, which really creates the potential for more projects to connect to the grid. So bid window 7 will try to get projects up to about 5,000 megawatts on the grid. And the DMRE is hoping that about 3,400 megawatts will come from new wind projects. Of course, when bid window 7 was launched, we were still sitting with this issue where there was almost no capacity left in the high potential areas. But since then, Eskom has released its curtailment framework as an addendum to its grid availability and capacity report. And this will essentially introduce the option of a 10% curtailment on projects, which will open up about 3,400 worth of capacity in these Cape provinces. And what we also saw at the end of last year was that Eskom cancelled the grid connection licenses that had been issued for the projects that won bids under the emergency procurement route. So that was the 3 car power ship projects in Richards Bay, and the one in the Eastern Cape and the Western Cape. So by doing that, it opened up an additional 1,000 megawatts of grid capacity in the high potential provinces. So because of these developments, there is now the potential to connect new wind and of course solar projects in these provinces. And that may have contributed to the reason why this deadline had to be extended by 1 month.
I must ask you, Denene, and I think it's okay that we've seen various hiccups. I guess we're learning with time here when it comes to this IPP program. But I guess what's on my mind is the issue of getting these projects online at the right cost and in time for us to make use of the fact that we have 7 bid windows at this point. If we really are looking at what we're seeing with bid window 7 and the progress so far, could we be moving faster? Also, maybe keen to get your thoughts on the issue of transmission. We know we need to raise money. We've got thousands of kilometers of transmission lines that we need to, procure and build here at Denene. It all sounds like there's a lot of implementation risk that lies ahead.
I think that's a very interesting point, and I think that shows in how we are seeing the energy market in South Africa developing. So these the REAP projects and the program is a government-backed program, but because of the many hoops that these projects have to really comply with and run through, we have seen that sort of private-to-private projects have been developing much faster than the projects under the procurement rounds. And especially we've seen massive uptake in rooftop solar. We've seen especially the intensive energy users such as mines entering private-to-private agreements. And I think we are going to see more of that. And while these the industries would say that the REAP program has been absolutely instrumental in creating the market demand for a renewable energy sector in South Africa, and initially in the early stages, definitely that government backing was needed to get this industry up and running. I think that we will increasingly see much faster progress and much more megawatts being added in the private-to-private market, and that the REAP programs will probably start over the years and definitely, I think, within this decade still to represent a much smaller portion of the total build of new renewable capacity in South Africa.
Sounds like it might be another curveball for us. Denene, thank you so much for your time. It's always a pleasure having you on Business Lunch. That was energy writer for the Business Day, Denene Erasmus.